Today on CarTraction we are going to be messing around with something that has not appeared on the channel that much because we need to cut the trees to get it out of this place. This is our 1940 Dodge 3-ton truck. Used to be an RAF crew bus in the Second World War. It was bought by a British racing driver who stored his twin-supercharged 1930s Alfa Romeo HC. The car sold for roughly 6 mil, something like that, a few years ago. I'll talk a little bit more about its history later, but today, for the first time in probably like another year or so, we're going to be getting it going. It's got a 5.4 litre 6-cylinder engine and a very, very strange starting procedure. I will be learning along with you guys on this because it's been a long time since I've seen this absolute beast fire up. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this as we don't see much of it, and yeah, let's see it if it'll go. A little bit of preparation has already gone underway for the firing up of this huge 6-cylinder.
We just give the points a quick clean because it hasn't run for probably 3 months maybe. So we take off the sizable rotor arm. We've just given that a clean up, and the points are in there. So we just gave those in there, just a little clean,
folded sandpaper,
a little bit of fairly fine sandpaper just to clean the points up, make sure we've got a good healthy spark. We always need a nice healthy spark, and then we'll whiz that on there.
Yeah, because if you think about it, this engine mustn't even be running because you bought this in '95, was it? Mm. Yeah, and it was. When was this engine rebuilt?
Just get this right. About 2008, 9.
Yeah, so we hardly do any mileage in this thing because it's the most unusable thing in the world. So this engine.
That wasn't the point.
Yeah, the point of it is to look cool.
To save it.
Yeah, to save it and to look cool in the garage. It was an absolute wreck. I'll see if I can find some photos of what it looked like before Dad's restoration. It's obviously all relatively good at the moment and hopefully in running order, although that will be proven today. Of course, it's the world's oldest surviving original race car transporter, we believe, this one. The world's best bonnet mount, or bonnet like support, there you go. So there's the engine, 5.4 litre side valve 6-cylinder.
It's a bit dusty. So what we need to do is, as it's sat, to save churning away on the battery, because there are 2 batteries on this old girl. So
talk about that later.
Yes, so to save churning away, we'll rig up a little temporary fuel feed and just pour some fuel into the fuel pump down there. We'll just make sure that's fully topped up, and it just saves churning away, pulling the fuel up all the way from the tank down back there somewhere.
It's a long way to come for the fuel, isn't it?
It is.
How long is it?
Well, you can pace it out.
Oh, you know. Is it
I don't know, it's from
20
there.
foot or something?
Oh, I thought you meant. Oh, the whole thing is 26 feet.
26 foot long. The garage, of course, the roof was raised to accommodate this beast with its recreated sign writing. As I said, I'll talk a bit more about the history of this incredible vintage truck a little bit later, but we can do that once it's fired up. We'll have a little look on the interior. There's an interesting aspect on the interior. We've had one of the batteries on charge, but of course, as Dad hinted, there are 2 batteries now. Under there, I believe, is a 6-volt battery. That powers pretty much everything. And just down there is a 12-volt battery, which is dedicated just to the starter motor. It's a huge engine, this, so it actually needs all the juice from a separate 12-volt battery to even like turn over the starter motor, and then the 6-volt one takes over. But the 12-volt one is not linked to the dynamo or anything like that, so it doesn't charge, so it needs to be charged every time to give it the most oomph for the best chance of a start, because it is a heavy engine to turn over this one. So that's another quirk with this one. And we're just setting up our temporary fuel feed. As I said, the ex-crew bus here was converted after the Second World War to be a race car transporter. Some of the less spectacular cars, I feel very, very guilty saying that it transported would be the likes of a Connaught, Aston Martin DB3S, but the main car transported is this, an Alfa Romeo HC35. That's the driver. We'll talk about him a little bit more later. That is a 1930s straight 8-cylinder Alfa Romeo. So here's our version of priming the fuel pump. We've got this temporary gravity feed setup here. That's just to get a little bit into the carburettor and intake system. And then we'll take this off and put that back to the line from the tank all the way to here, and hopefully it should stay running for longer than 20 seconds if it runs at all.
There is a video from 2000 of me doing this in the barn that it used to be stored in.
What the hell, wasn't it? This fellow, and this one. Goodness me. Got spark on one spark plug.
Yes, he's just sprinted over to go and put his bike away. Bit of the damp stuff in the air. Anyway, back to getting this going. Yeah, we're just priming up the fuel at the moment.
The rain is indeed very, very loud in here. We've got the half-ton Dodge tucked away over here. This is of course the 3-ton bigger brother. Dad's just connecting the fuel pipe from the tank all the way back there. We've primed it with our little bit of fuel there, and we're edging ever closer to turning the starter and seeing if it'll fire. The smaller Dodge here might be getting a little blast from the side pipe of the big truck here. Obviously hasn't run for a while. Old fuel might be a little bit smoky initially. Dad is just opening the bottom garage to increase some airflow. Just unplugged the battery charger from charging the 12-volt battery just for the starter motor. And now, do we think it's time?
I think so.
To see.
We should have voltage, we should have a bit of fuel somewhere in the vicinity.
So yeah, let's see if she'll run at however many years it's been since 1940.
Duckham's Q 2050. There's the Alfa at Monaco in about 35 or 36. The Esso Tiger. I've got a Tiger in my tank. I've just got to remember which is the... I did mark these up. There, ignition, that one.
After a failed first attempt, we're going to check for a spark. The joys of owning a huge truck from 1940.
Double check for a spark at the points. The points are closed at the moment. So if we open them, we should get a little spark.
Well, that's all good.
Probably just need to prime up a bit more fuel.
So the plan of action is we're going to try and start it, just to prove that it does start, with our temporary fuel feed. It'll only run for a couple of seconds, obviously, and then once we've proved that it does indeed run, we'll relink the fuel line from all the way back there just to save the starter motor a bit and see if it'll run for a prolonged period.
It'll run.
It will, it will. So how many of these 3 tons are still, like, around?
Well, it's the only one of these.
Yes, it's obviously the only crew bus or transporter. But, like, of this front, are there any others?
There are 2 3-ton tractor units in the States somewhere.
Is that it? One of 3 this?
Well,
One of 3 3-ton Dodges, but obviously one of 1.
there's a few Canadian 3-tons around, but they're not the same thing.
Are they not? Oh, so this is just an American 3-ton as opposed to...
Left-hand drive. The Canadian
Yes,
one's
yeah.
right-hand drive. It's just a drop of fuel in there.
Well, there you go, everyone. That's how long that lasted, which wasn't very long, but it proves it, of course, does run. So we're going to link that back up to the tank now.
We'll put a drop more fuel in this way, just so that the fuel pump is full, and then we'll reconnect this to the main fuel pipe, and then hopefully that'll draw the old fuel up from the tank. All being well.
And it should run longer than 6 seconds. I wasn't counting.
I need to fill up my little.
Yes, that was full at the start of this.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. It was only a tiny bit we put in. It's not that bad.
Right. That's it. Because we want to just top everything up. Keep going, keep going. I'll probably do for priming purposes. Fuel is so old. I'm amazed it starts, to be honest. It's a very low compression engine, so it'll kind of run on pretty much anything. So we've got good oil pressure. Oil pressure's up, charging. The temperature will start coming up soon.
We are, isn't it?
Just about.
That's good.
smoothing out a bit now. Try the clutch.
Alright, do I need to hold on?
Not going far.
Just going to make sure the clutch works. Move a tiny bit forwards or backwards.
Let it warm up a bit now, I think we'll go outside.
Just sometimes, well, always make the garage a little bit fumey, this one. Well, I think all things considered, that was a very, very successful start. Once we had the fuel in it, albeit if the fuel is indeed very, very old, it fired up pretty instantly once the fuel had got up. Obviously, in a car like this, the V8 Pilot or the Standard here, the fuel doesn't have to come far from the tank, but in this, it's 26 foot long. The fuel has to come quite away from the tank at the back, and of course the fuel is very, very old, so it's not the best. I think we put some super unleaded in it, but that was only for the starting bit, just to really sort of get it going. But what it's running on now is really old fuel, which is quite impressive, but it's running well, it's idling well, warming up nicely. Here we are inside now, the driver's POV of the Dodge 3-ton. This is of course an extremely historic vehicle. Started out as a World War II crew bus. It took the very brave aeroplane pilots towards their planes in the back there, and Mr. Dennis Poore converted it into a race car transporter. Many stories we've had from the ex-mechanics of who used to drive this very 3-ton truck where I'm sitting now. Sadly they're not around anymore, but there are so many stories. One of them is when they're driving through London with the Alfa in the back, which is now a £6 million car. It was on old style wooden block roads. A motorcyclist fell off in front of them and they swerved in this, that's right, and went down the side of 12 parked cars. Dad also knows a story where I think they ripped off the front axle of this one, and I think there was also some sort of transporter racing going on at the time. So it's an incredibly historic transporter here. It's the world's oldest surviving transporter. There's the likes of the Mercedes gull-wing engined transporter, that's a recreation. From 1940, this is by far the oldest original race car transporter, which is why it's such a unique vehicle, and when Dad found it in 1995 it just needed restoring. It was at Donington Park. It had been in the Grand Prix Museum with the Alfa Romeo car itself. Well, unfortunately this one was turfed out. Very heavy pedals on this one. Of course it's absolutely huge. It makes a fantastic noise, this huge 5.4 litre 6-cylinder engine. Its original engine, the original cylinder head was all cracked, it had to be all stitched up, but nowadays it's actually running another Dodge 3-ton cylinder head that Dad managed to find, very luckily, because as I said, or Dad said earlier, there are like 2 other Dodges with these engines in, and this is obviously the only original RAF crew bus with this custom back body that of course was converted to hold an Alfa Romeo Grand Prix car. And just back there used to be a variety of cars. I said a Connaught race car, Formula 2 roughly that would have been, Aston Martins, and of course the wondrous twin-supercharged Alfa Romeo that used to hill climb the likes of Shelsley, Walsh, Prescott, raced at Goodwood after the war. A very competitive car, won many races in it, with this truck, transporting it, Mr. Dennis Poore. Yeah, it's always a treat to get this one fired up again. We've got all the period type accessory, this one, not when motor oils, ashtray, fire extinguisher up there. It's just an incredible thing, this. I know it doesn't feature much on the channel, we don't get out much in it. Maybe this year or next year we'll be able to take it to a show, we'll have to see. Yeah, it's such a treat to have this just sat in the garage here, even though it doesn't move very often at all, just to fire up this fantastic sounding truck just like that after a little bit of fuel priming and tickling of carburetors and things. Yeah, decent afternoon spent that. Starting to warm up now, the oil pressure increasing nicely. As I said, we've probably done fewer than 100 miles in this truck since Dad rebuilt the engine in the very early 2000s, so it's barely run in, probably nowhere near even run in, this engine. Obviously had to be everything, all the sides, all restored, remade, because it was absolutely knackered, an absolute wreck when Dad found it all those years ago. And now it is restored to its former glory. We could have gone all shiny with it, but Dad actually oily rags this one quite often, because if it was shiny, that's not how it looked in period. When we look at the photos of this in Prescott and Shelsley Walsh, it's like this, it's oily rag green, and that is what we've done. It's obviously been repainted, and the signing has been recreated on the walls exactly. It's obviously all new signage, but it's oiled up nicely just to look original, just how it would have looked back in the day. And there we go, silence in the garage once again.
Turn the battery cut-offs off as well while you're there.
Oh, I didn't know I had battery cut-offs. Where are those then?
There are two between the seats. If you turn them both anti-clockwise, one sort of click.
Oh, where am I looking? Between the seats?
There's two black rotary things down here on the floor.
Oh yes, I see them.
Yeah. So if you just turn those anti-clockwise, both of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And then it just...
Very advanced, like a race car with battery cut-offs.
Yeah, just one for the 6, one for the 12.
Now that the mighty engine is silenced, we'll have a little look in the back, where the very Alfa Romeo used to be. To get in the back, we have to fold these seats forwards, like that, and step in. There's the 6-volt battery down there. And here we are. Believe it or not, in this small space used to lie an Alfa Romeo 8C35. I mentioned a transporter race earlier, the Connaught, that also transported in this car. The owner of this particular transporter and the Connaught decided to have a transporter race, which sounds like fun. There's many stories with this one. Now we've accessorised it, or Dad's accessorised it, with a lot of not when memorabilia and related things. Obviously it's done up in the not when colours.
I need to go outside to see it.
Yes, let's get some light on it. So this is when it was discovered with the Alfa, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
This was before you got it though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So then it was like that, and then it went to Donington, was it?
Yeah, it was in the Donington, the Grand Prix Museum for a few years. That's the trailer with it alongside.
Oh yes, that's under the cover outside. That's actually quite a bit better than it was when you found it, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Dry stored.
It sat outside for years when I found it.
Sure, I can put some photos of that up. It's quite a horrifying sight indeed. Okay, so that was us firing up and having a little chat regarding our 1940 Dodge 3-ton transporter. Hope you enjoyed this little video from us today, guys. I just thought I'd do a little bit of a recap on this fantastic old truck and see whether we could get it going, which of course we would. We were never in any doubt, really. If you guys have any more questions regarding any facts or history of this truck, then do drop a comment in the section below. And yeah, make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know if you'd like to see more of this fantastic truck. It obviously doesn't get out much, it's too tall. We have to cut the trees on the driveway, especially to get this one out. But it is a spectacular thing, restored to pretty much original. Obviously, all oily ragged, as I said earlier, to make sure it doesn't look too shiny, because this is the sort of matted look that it would have looked like in period. But yeah, do let me know all of that. There is once again the fantastic Alfa Romeo 8C, driven by Dennis Poore, which sold for 6 million in a Bonhams auction. Is it 2011 or something? 2013. There you go. That Alfa sold to America, was it? And then it was repainted in red, because it was originally like an Italian race car, wasn't it? And then Dennis Poore bought it.
Scuderia Ferrari.
Yeah. And then Dennis Poore bought it and painted it green.
It was pre-war. Ferrari didn't make its own cars, so he ran the works Alfa Romeo Grand Prix team, and this was one of the cars.
So it's been repainted from the green like this into like the original. That's it in its green colours. You can see the horse.
That's Bill Laws. I met him at one of the Festival of Speed many years ago. I bumped into him in the car park. So I had quite a chat with him.
So is he a mechanic?
He was the head mechanic for this little racing team. And he lived in New Zealand, but he'd come over especially for the Festival of Speed. So I bumped into him, which was nice. Quite a chat.
So yeah, somewhere in its original red colours before the green. If it was our way, it'd still be in the original green, but it was repainted in the Scuderia colours under its new ownership, and it lies somewhere in America. If the American owner's watching, then it'd be nice to have a get-together sometime, wouldn't it?
Yes.
I'm sure he probably not.
No.
And maybe if we get a few more subs, make sure to share this video if you know someone with an Alfa Romeo 8C in America. Or not in America, we'll see. But yeah, do comment below if you did like it. Make sure to like and subscribe. Come back here next Sunday and sometimes for the midweek for an extra little upload, shorter one like this one.
Check
you can
out the Old Classic Car channel for more videos about this.
Yes, for the original firing up.
The coolest truck in the world.
It is up there. Yeah, you can check out Dad's Old Classic Car channel for the original firing up back in 01.
Well, that video was done in 2000 with Grandad.
And then there's more recent ones with the big clean. Every couple of years or so we get all the ladders out and clean this one, don't we? Yeah, don't you? Don't you? Sorry, I keep saying we in this video. I wasn't even around when this was being restored. I've said we too many times.
Yeah.
I only came in 08, so this was pretty much done by the time I got here.
Yes.
Which must have been a bit chaotic for you. But fair enough, it looks very, very nice today. Is there?
Yes.
Is there?
Yes.
I'll stick to the standard.
Many happy hours of cleaning ahead.
I'll stick to the standard for now. Thanks for watching everyone, and bye for now.